In the headlines, Kanakota firms Ganduje's suspension as APC chairman. EFCC recovers $32.7,445,000 from humanitarian ministry. Nigeria's inflation to drop 18% in 2026, IMF says. Middle East on edge as Israel and Iran trade threats. And on sports, Benin Republic to tackle Super Eagles in Abidjan. Hello and welcome to Liberty News. I am Jemima Shagaya. Now the news in full. Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has launched a new digital trade compliance initiative called the Window Project Chambers of the State House Abuja. The president said Nigeria cannot afford to lose an estimated $4 billion annually to bureaucracy, delay, and corruption. President Tinubu also said it was time for Nigeria to join the ranks of countries like Singapore, Korea, Kenya, and Saudi Arabia that have experienced significant improvement in trade efficiency after implementing a single window system. The Nigerian leader said that through the newly launched project, Nigeria will expand cargo movement and optimize inter-African trade. He added that
Nigeria, being home to a rich and diverse array of wildlife such as elephants, pangolins, and various primates, has unfortunately become a hotspot for illegal wildlife trade in species such as elephants, pangolins, like I mentioned before.
Director of the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, Olivia Stupo, said wildlife crime is not being accorded the seriousness it deserves. There is therefore the need to increase the penalties on wildlife crime.
The weaknesses of the current legal framework are exemplified in the minimal sentences handed down to wildlife crime perpetrators who have been prosecuted and convicted in the past year and a half, thanks in part to the assiduousness of the Nigerian Customs Service.
Stakeholders at the dialogue says indeed the bill is a child necessity to keep pace with current realities in the fight against wildlife and forest crime.
You will agree with me that outdated laws and legislations remain one of the challenges confronting sustainable forest and biodiversity conservation in the country. Recall in 2005, Nigeria was suspended, by the CITES authority for not having regulatory.
The federal government has warned that 148 local government areas in 31 states of the Federation fall within the high flood risk areas. This was disclosed in Abuja by Minister of Water Resources, Professor Joseph Twafse, while representing the general highlights of the 2024 annual flood outlook prepared by the Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency. Twafse listed the high flood risk area as Adabawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Edo, Imo, Jigawa, have been the worst since the 2012 floods. The 2022 flood was reported to have affected 33 of Nigeria's 36 states, with over 2 million people displaced. No fewer than 1.2 million young Nigerians will be in the first batch of those to benefit for the student loan scheme of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. The process, according to Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFund's Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, MD, CEO Akintunde Sawyer, the ambitious Cardinal program will be funded with 1% of the total annual collectible revenue by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. This year, the revenue target given to the FIRS is $1 19.4 trillion naira. Should the agency meet this project, 194 billion naira will be available as a loan to the beneficiary students. Repayment according to the law will commence 2 years after the completion of the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC). Moving on, the Kaduna State House of Assembly has constituted a committee to investigate how the $350 million World Bank loan obtained by the former Governor Nasiru El-Rufai administration was spent, as well as other beneficial spending in the Boundon project, initiated by the immediate past government between 2015 to 2023. The Speaker of the Assembly, Yusuf Liman, inaugurated the 30-man committee during plenary. The constitution of the committee followed a motion moved by the member representing the Kauru constituency, Mugu Yusuf, asking the House to investigate all the loans obtained by the El-Rufai administration. During the debate, the former Speaker Yusuf Zalani, during whose tenure state Abdullahi Ganduje. Magaji alleged that the Ganduje government took 1 billion naira from the state coffers a month to the expiration of the administration's tenure in May 2023, but the money was spent to bureau the change operators and not used for road renovations as earmarked. The Kano Anti-Graft chairman, who said he was being viewed as a stubborn person in some quarters, insisted on alleged corruption and maladministration by the Ganduje administration. Magaji said though he was appointed by Ganduje to head the agency, he won't hesitate to prosecute alleged corruption by the immediate past administration in the state. Meanwhile, the High Court would arraign Ganduje today, April 17, 2024, on charges. The Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC, says it has so far recovered the sum of 32.7 billion naira and $445,000 from investigations of past and suspended officials of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. The Commission, in a statement entitled "Settling the Records Straight" on investigations of humanitarian ministry, issued by the spokesman Dele Oyewale, says the recoveries were made when the affected officials of the ministry were invited by the commission. It also noted that the announcement was made to dispense rumors concerning the process of the mobile investigations into the alleged financial misappropriation in the ministry. The FCC stated that the investigation opened other fraudulent dealings involving COVID-19 funds, the World Bank loan, and Abacha recovered loot released to the ministry by the federal government to execute its poverty alleviation mandate linked to other suspended officials of the ministry. Additionally, he said the EFCC had not cleared anyone allegedly involved in the fraud, as investigations were going on and advancing steadily and joining the Welcome back. You're still on to Liberty News. Now moving on to business, the International Monetary Fund IMF has projected 23% inflation rate for Nigeria in 2025 and further drop to 18% in 2026. In its global economic outlook released at the ongoing IMF World Bank Spring meetings in Washington, D.C., Division Chief IMF Research Department Daniel Lange said Nigeria is moving in the right direction with economic reforms and including exchange rate reforms, which contributed to a surge in inflation rate in March to 33.2%. Continuing, Lange said growth in Nigeria is steady but actually rising this year from 2.9% last year to 3.3% this year. We have seen an expansion from the recovery in the oil sector with a better security situation and also improved agriculture benefiting from the better weather condition and the introduction of dry season farming. He said that global growth prospects are also harmed by rising geo-economic fragmentation. The opposition in Togo has denounced a proposed new constitution as a power grab intended to extend the reign of President Farouk Ghanouchi in case they are targeted by the authorities, especially in light of police tracking down on anti-government protests. Still on the international scene, Israel and Iran traded threats after Tehran's first ever direct attack on its Akfo sharply heightened tension in a region already on edge after 6 months of war in Gaza. The war in the besieged territory and soaring civilian toll have revived the push for a two-state solution, while the UN Security Council preparing to vote Thursday on full United Nations membership for a Palestinian. But the Super Eagles will take on Benin in fourth round match of the 2026 World Cup qualifying series at the Felix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium in Abidjan, where they enjoy a fine run of the recent AFCON. Super Eagles beat Guinea-Bissau, Angola and Cameroon at the former Ivorian National Stadium to go all the way to the Champions